Today, we are going to make some grass. No, I'm not in Colorado, so it's not going to be that kind of grass. It's our techniques that are so simple and sensible, your models will practically build themselves. Oh, hi folks, it's Mad Dog Merv. You see nothing. Actually, no. Today on the show, remember a few months ago I did a review of the Revell Torino from Starsky and Hutch, the series. And, well, today I finished building it and I just can't help playing with it. I mean, come on. I grew up in that era and I used to watch the show and I'd love to watch that Torino just zip around corners. That's how I thought you drove. So, but if you didn't watch the show, you still to this day will recognize the striped tomato, the Starsky and Hutch special. And it's one of the most iconic movie cars ever. You know, like the Batmobile, the General Lee, which I built both of those before, and the car from Christine, the car from Supernatural, which we reviewed not too long ago, that I still have to build, and I can't wait to do that. Well, I couldn't wait to do this because, well, it's the striped tomato. It's a Torino, and I'm a Ford guy. So today on the show, we are going to go over a little bit of the history of the car, and we are going to look at the build that I did to get it from a kit form to looking like this. Yeah, something that I can play. I mean, put on the shelf and have a lot of fun looking at. So stick with us, folks, and Mad Dog Merv is going to build the Starsky and Hutch special. Unlike the Dukes of Hazzard that went through hundreds of Dodge Chargers, according to the records I could find, it looked like there was only 8 Torinos that were used in the filming of the series, Starsky and Hutch. And the first 2 were in the pilot. They were 75 models. They were 351 Windsors with the 2B paint. They both had the remote chrome mirrors, no bumper protection, and one of them did have the split bench seat. For the first season, there were 2 more purchased. These were both 1975 models with the 400 in it, so need a little bit more power. They did have no moldings on the side, where the first 2 cars did have the side body moldings. But these had body color mirrors, and that's pretty close to what I'm going to be replicating here. They did have bumper protection. And then in season 2, there were 2 1976 cars. They both had split bench seats. They had the silver bumper shields, which is the little area between the, it's a 5-mile-an-hour area between the bumper and the body. And they both had the remote chrome mirrors, and they both had side moldings with 460 engine in them. The car proved so popular that in 1976, Ford Motor Company released 1,000 in the United States market of the Starsky and Hutch Special, which was red with a white stripe, and 100 of them in the Canadian market. One of these cars was used by the production company as a backup car for the TV series. For the 2004 movie, there were 10 cars that were used in the filming. 2 of them actually survived, the rest were totaled. One interesting fact from the early days is when they would get these Torinos, they could not modify the engines at all because it was against the law. So they would use lower gearing in order to get those cool burnouts that they did on the show. I decided to build my model as one of the season 1 cars, which was a 75 model with the 400 engine, had no body side molding, but did have the body colored mirrors and the bumper protection installed. So I could have just polished up the plastic and it would have been really pretty and really nice, and I think the decals would have adhered, but I wanted to make sure. So I went ahead and painted mine. And I did it in the usual way that I paint things. So after I wiped it down really good so I wouldn't have any boogers in it, I went ahead and used my Rust-Oleum 2X primer and gave it a couple of coats of that. Then once that dried, went over it with the 4,000 grits polishing pad to prepare it for the color coats. And for the color coats, well, I like to use the little 1/4 ounce Testors bottled paint. They've got 2 colors of red, kind of a lighter color red and a darker color red. And this is that little bit lighter color. It makes a very nice candy apple red, very similar to the actual color on the Torinos, and to me it's close enough. Again, I thin it with lacquer thinner as always and do my usual spray technique, and it actually goes on pretty smooth and looks pretty good. But then what I do is I let it sit for about a week and cure properly, and then I start with a 1200 grits polishing pad. I use these that you get from Micromark. This particular time though, I started out with the 2300 grit, went up to the 3200 grit, and then finished with the 4000 grit. And I polished the entire body out, and it came out really nice and really smooth. But you can see it polishes up really nice. It's really smooth. I could have put a gloss coat on, I could have put Future on, and I chose not to. I thought I'm just going to decal right over this. So I cut out the decals and went through the process of putting those on. They fit very, very well. A little bit of decal solvent around the doors and everything just snugged right down, and it looked absolutely awesome. However, in a couple of areas, and you can see in this close-up, a couple of the edges I got a little bit too aggressive, and it took it all the way down to the primer. So what I had to do is go back, load up a little bit of paint, and you could either brush paint that or you could airbrush that back on, and then again wait for it to dry completely, and then just go over it with the polishing pad very quickly, as to not knock it off there, but to just clean it up. And for the chrome trim, I used my normal technique of just hand painting with a brush with Testors Silver, and I did that to all of the areas that should have been, quote, chrome trim, you know, the wheel openings, the big molding underneath the doors, all of that kind of stuff. And I'll go back and touch some of that up with a Molotow pen later. You can see here in this picture, this is after I've gone back over with the wash, so that you've got the defining lines between the trim. So now I'm going to go around and accentuate all of my panel lines, every line on this car that I can. And I'm using a concoction that I call Larry's Bath Water. It is an acrylic paint with some dish soap and water. And I went ahead and put this on all of the lines, and what you can see, it looks terrible. Oh my gosh, I've ruined the whole project. And you can see here I've gone around the window frame, and I've put it on there as well. I use it for all sorts of, it's a wash, so I use it for all sorts of things here on the car. But never fear, you wait for it to dry. Once it dries thoroughly, you get a Q-tip and just get it damp. So I would dip the Q-tip in some water, wring it out really good, and I'd go back over the area, and it picks up all the paint off of the high spots and keeps it in the low spots like I want. So no, I didn't ruin it. Things turned out very well. And for the paint, I used the Mission Models Primer Black for my washes. So now onto the grill. I used the same technique on the grill, and I painted my bumper guards with just a brush. I didn't tape anything off this time. I decided to do it all old school and just kind of test my skills. And the turn signal lens that's behind the grill here on each side, I just did a wash with a gloss white paint, and then of course used the same technique, wiped off the chrome part. And you can see I'm using my my black wash here around the headlights, as should be on this particular car. You can also see in this picture that I placed the front license plate where it belongs on the Torino. So after everything is assembled, and after I've done my washes and I've cleaned them up, I really need to go over the body of the car one more time to make it look right. I don't want it to look dingy. I want to polish it up. So good old-fashioned turtle wax. and I would take it on a paper towel to do the large areas of the body, but for some of the smaller areas of the body, I would just put it on a cotton swab here. And as you can see on the sides, I'm applying it to the side, and just like I would on a real car, just polish it in there, let it dry for a couple of minutes, and then go over it with, and I usually go over with either a terry rag or with a paper towel, and it seems to work out just fine. And I polish that up really good, and you'll see the results here in just a moment. So let's go to the engine. The only thing I really did, besides build it straight from the box, was I added a kind of a leather color, Tester's leather color, to the manifolds here, and then went over it with a pencil to kind of give it a little bit of a metallic look as well. Having owned a lot of Fords and knowing what these look like after just a little bit of time, I think this is pretty close to the correct color. So here's the engine compartment, box stock build. I am going to wire it up. I am going to add a few things because, well, it's the Starsky and Hutch car, and hey, I got to have it really cool. But not bad. This is how the engine builds up, and you paint it right, and yeah, I think it turned out pretty good for if you just want to build it straight from the box. As far as the interior goes, well, not much to brag about here. I am trying to show you with this little light that the decals fit very well for the instrument cluster, and around the instrument cluster that wood grain, as well as the one they provided for the steering wheel. It's really a nice set of decals for this particular vehicle. Of course, the light that comes in the kit, I needed to put a base on it, so I got a spare piece of chrome, one of the numbers on the chrome tree, and put that on the bottom, used that for the base, and I think that turned out okay. And I needed to make a radio antenna because, well, that's what I do, and really to make it look authentic, that's what I did. So I just took some I think it's bronze wire that I use with my model railroading stuff, and I built the base, and there you go. So here we go with the finished product. We're gonna walk around this thing and see how we did. I like how the front grille turned out and the bumper guards. The shine on this thing looks really, really nice. The decals on it turned out really good. The turn signal areas, I think they look okay if you look at pictures of the car online. In the back, I think I didn't get all of the black off that I should have around the chrome trim in the rear. So that's the only part that I'm a little bit, not 100% sure of, but might work on that a little bit more. But you can see the trunk lid looks really good. The stance of this thing is just amazing. I like how the trim turned out. All in all, very, very pleased with this particular build. Yeah, the stance on this thing is just wicked. What a neat looking car. No wonder everybody fell in love with it back in the day. Decided to keep the rims nice and shiny and chrome looking and polished up, although they probably should be dulled down a little bit. I chose to not do that. There you have it, folks. My rendition of one of the first season 1975 cars. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this. And Zebra 3, come in, please.